Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Pletchy in the Tier 8 French medium tank, the Bourrasque. Now, before I talk about this vehicle and the incredible gameplay that Pletchy is going to demonstrate here, I really want to talk about the equipment. Whenever I watch replays of clearly very good players, it's really enjoyable to see what kind of equipment they choose to try and match it up against your own. Pletchy is using coated optics, vents and vertical stabilizers, and is using a directive as well that further improves the vertical stabilizers, making them just absolutely outrageous. Now, full bond equipment on a tier 8 tank, is that kind of overkill? Well, you know what? I don't think it is. You probably don't want to put it on every single tier 8 premium tank if you're lucky enough to own them. However, by taking your favorite tier 8 premium tank and investing the bond equipment, and if you've played World of Tanks a lot and you've participated in events, you might have some hanging around, or you might just have enough bonds to be able to afford it. You can take your favorite premium tier 8 vehicle and turn it into this kind of hyper tank, which can allow you to really make some credits. And that's exactly what Pletchy is going to do here. Now, vertical stabilizers on a Bourrasque, it's a tank that has one of the worst accuracies at 0.42 base, so a lot of people like to use the accuracy device on this vehicle, and I can fully understand that, because the vehicle's gun handling at 0.1 when moving, when turning the tank and when turning the turret is actually good enough to probably get away without vertical stabilizers if this thing wasn't an autoloader with such a fantastic intra-clip reload. Because what a lot of people don't think about with the Bourrasque, and all autoloaders in general, is that your vertical stabilizers and your rotation device, anything that improves your dispersion when you're moving the tank, also actually improves the dispersion when you're firing in the vehicle. And so that means that the amount that your reticle blooms out afterwards is significantly mitigated depending on if you're using vert stabs and a rotation device. Pletchy is using bond vertical stabilizers, which I believe either do 25 or 27% reduced dispersion after reduced dispersion after firing, including also the directive that Pletchy has decided to use. Then we're probably packing at least about 27.5 or 30%. I don't 100% know off the top of my head. But that's an outrageous amount of dispersion reduction. And considering the Bourrasque is a vehicle that has a really nice intra-clip reload of just 2 seconds, that means that Pletchy is going to be able to get the second shell out accurately after the first one. And I feel like that maximizes the strengths of the Bourrasque, right? A vehicle which delivers that 1-2 punch that just no other tank can really compare to. There are other autoloaders that do have good alpha damage and have nice intra-clip reloads like the Bourrasque, but not a lot of them, if any of them at tier 8, have 360 alpha damage. The AMBT is a good example of a vehicle that just has 1 extra second of intra-clip reload on its gun, and it's got horrible bloom as well, even worse bloom than the Bourrasque, which kind of prevents that vehicle from being that 1-2 punch. When Wargaming put the EBR in and they put the Bourrasque in, I think they thought by giving it a small magazine that it was going to make the vehicle allow it to have really good statistics in other areas. And clearly what we found as a player base is that having a small magazine autoloader is incredibly powerful, because you can fire one shot and then reload, and it's not the end of the world. You go and play something like a T69 or an AMX 5100 and you fire one shot and reload, and you're not going to be getting out many shells throughout the battle. Pletchy's combining the vertical stabilizers with coated optics on this tank, evidently to just increase the view range, and on a map like this you really don't need to have a commander's vision system. And I wouldn't be surprised, even though Pletchy didn't show us as we were loading into the battle, if their second loadout was not using a commander's vision system and maybe dropping the vents, or even dropping the vertical stabilizers to combine it with coated optics. Or even with an exceptional crew and a premium consumable like Pletchy is using, you might even be able to drop the coated optics. That kind of defeats the point of kind of wanting to be that hyper scout on those bushy maps. Alright, so Pletchy has pretty much been the glue that has kind of held his team together with mobile damage and also mobile view range. At the beginning of the game, lighting up most of the enemy tanks, then falling back and trying to deal with opponents that were flanking over the bridge, and now also trying to stop the tier 9 Czechoslovakian heavy tank from making their way up the slope and grinding in. Now Pletchy is going to use this hill position like an absolute beast. And a little bit of cheeky auto-aim there. Ooh, a little bit of a misplay, probably. But yeah, it looked like it was fairly close, and you kind of have to get out of a bit of a situation there. Auto-aim is definitely something that when you're using good shell velocity rounds like you get on the premium variant of the Borask shells here with 1,250 meters a second, you can actually increase your awareness by just letting the auto-aim do the work at these kind of short distances. Of course, it's still better to manually aim, but with the auto-aim and then being able to see exactly if there's another vehicle coming, or alternatively see if your opponent is going to make any get behind any cover, or alternatively if you're just dancing around at the top of the ridge, then auto-aim can actually still be fairly decent indeed. But you don't want to rely on it. If anything, you want to manually aim your shots and connect them cleanly like Plechy is going to against the TVP there, shutting down the tier 10 Czechoslovakian medium tank. And this is what's just so impressive about this replay in general, is that Plechy's team is down pretty much double on tanks and over double on hit points here. And Plechy is in a tier 8 vehicle having to stand up against multiple tier 9s and tier 10s, and he's going to give it a good go. And it's through just strong game mechanics, setting up the vehicle and taking a very good tank and then amplifying it up to an outrageous level with the kind of equipment that Plechy has put on this vehicle. And these are the kinds of players that you're having to play against, unfortunately, quite a lot of the time as the game goes on and on and on. And especially the kinds of players that you're going to have to look forward to as Frontline comes back. But at least they're not playing tier 9 tanks anymore. So Plechy's situation just is starting to get worse and worse and worse. 3,000 hit points against 10,000 hit points. But at least Plechy has the high ground against this T95. He shows great use of the terrain slope here to put at least a shot out of the two into the top of the T95. And every little helps in a situation like this. Now, one thing that's really cool about this replay as well, it's not just going to be another hill defense on Mountain Pass, is that there's a K91 PT on Plechy's team who's called Boopy, who has actually managed to get in a very cheeky position in the corner, and it's going to cause the enemy team a huge amount of grief. In this situation, if the K91 PT wasn't in the corner, this game would be completely forfeit. And did Plechy just manage to just high roll there for 419, or was that a high explosive round? Rewind the video and take a look. Irrelevant. Managing to shut down the Borsig and get the WT Alf Panzer IV down to a position where the K91 on Plechy's team was able to finish them off. And this is just a good example of an unexpected position that is just absolutely game-breaking. And now Plechy can combine with the K91 PT to do some outrageous crossfire here. Shutting down the Super Conqueror, the K91 giving a thank you to Plechy. And it's quite funny to see the Concept 1B says, "Idiot Borask, why wait?" Yeah, I'm sorry, Concept 1B. I think you should just sit down and just get carried, mate, in this kind of a situation, as Plechy is just showing complete domination of the top of the hill. Now, I don't usually feature replays of overpowered vehicles like the Borask. We've seen Borask gameplay a million times before. But I still absolutely loved this game. Just seeing how Plechy is just all over the place, just managing to get into those positions and actually able to auto-aim those shells there into the back of the T95. And I would stand by the auto-aim because it allows Plechy to be able to see when his vehicle's just about to go over the ridge, which you can't manage to do when you are in first-person mode. And the amount of times that I've cliff-dived and looked like a bit of an idiot, yeah, I know that all too well. Who isn't an idiot, however, is this TNH VZ51, who clearly realizes that the K91 PT is in the corner, and with the K91 PT's final breath manages to shut down the hero on the enemy team of the TNH VZ51. But Plechy is now up to 6,500 damage in a tier 8 tank in a game like this, in a 1 versus 3 scenario. T28 misfires against Plechy, and Plechy's not actually going to fire at the T28, realizing that the threat is the TVP. And there you are, TVP. Got you good. Plechy's going to put one round in. Put another round into the M48 A1 Revolurise, and now is going to manage to bomb it down the slope. But Plechy's making a bit of a misplay here, and that's right, he's run out of gold rounds, and so he's going to have to load irregular rounds. And that was just so calm, so collected, beautiful play. Even though in that 1 versus 3 stressful scenario, Plechy realizes that shooting the T28 prototype isn't going to enable him to win the game. And by killing the TVP, the dangerous Czechoslovakian autoloader, and then escaping out of that scenario and realizing the T-28 prototype wasn't a risk, now Plecci has allowed himself to reload. Now, who is their target going to be? Well, most likely it's going to be the Revolurise. He needs to get rid of the medium tank and then try and go 1 versus 1 against the tank destroyer, as the Borask doesn't have a magazine big enough to be able to catch them out here. Plecci puts 1 great round in and decides not to fire here. Hopefully isn't going to get tracked by the T-28. The commander dies. Now Plecci down to 24 hit points and puts in 1 more round into the T-28, healing the commander as well. And oh, that scared me as well. Plecci, you were so close to getting reverse rammed in this situation, and that would have been incredibly awkward. Nevertheless, Plecci remaining calm, probably going to do 720 damage here against the T-28 prototype. Oh, what? Well, apparently I don't know what I'm talking about, because Plecci doesn't believe in 360 damage rolls, but instead 450 damage rolls, enabling them to shut down the T-28 prototype and take down an absolute monster carry for their team. This was just outrageous. 8,400 damage dealt and 1,100 assistance in a tier 10 game in a tier 8 vehicle. Plecci was an absolute behemoth of the battlefield here in a vehicle that definitely isn't gargantuan in its stature. What an absolute ridiculous carry of a game here, irrelevant of the tank. And it was all about the situation. The hill, obviously an incredibly awesome position to fall back to. Don't go there too early. Well, when maybe you can still manage to apply pressure. The hill defense doesn't always manage to come through in this epic fashion. And it was undoubtedly the K91 PT, if we could manage to find out where they were, who was able to create that beautiful crossfire together, with Plecci spotting for the K91 PT and the K91 PT managing to get those extra shots in to their opponent that just really didn't expect him. This was a beautiful game of World of Tanks, and I expect that you probably thought that it was going to have to be something special for me to want to feature a Borask on the channel, and it truly was. So Plecci takes it all down here, an ace tanker, unsurprisingly, for 2,540 base experience. The mind boggles. This was the 3rd highest experience game ever in a Borask that has been uploaded to the What Replays website, literally getting double the experience of anyone else on their team. There are quite a few tier 8 tanks that could get half of this experience and still be able to get an ace tanker, and for Plecci to be able to get 9 kills in addition to this to secure a Radley Walters medal is outrageous. A Nichols medal for destroying at least 4 enemy tanks or tank destroyers with a medium tank in one battle that must be at least a tier higher, tank sniper for dealing a lot of damage at long range, a defender for protecting the cap circle, and a high caliber for a staggering 8,700 damage dealt. And I bet that Boopy in their K91 PT thought that they had an epic game in this one. And undoubtedly they did. Without the K91 PT working with Plecci in that situation, neither of them would have been able to get through the battle with a win. And one of the reasons why a lot of people love to play the Borask is that even if you fire a lot of gold in this tank, you can still make a gigantic profit. But just make sure you're not whiffing those shells and you're showing pretty darn impeccable marksmanship like Plecci here. Otherwise, yeah, that credit income is going to severely diminish. Anyway, Plecci, congratulations to you on this mammoth game of World of Tanks. Yeah, as I said, it takes a lot for me to be impressed by some Borask gameplay, but you showcased everything that there was with regards to game mechanics and just that clean play at the end where you were so calm under pressure against the T-28 prototype to handle the TVP and then to go away and to come back and protect the cap circle. I loved it. Irrelevant of you spamming a lot of gold in a premium tank. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this game. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, later on today, there will be a Rinoceronte Tech Tree Showcase. Yeah, that's right. Arguably one of the worst tier 10 heavy tanks is currently top of the tree, and I'm going to feature the entirety of the Italian heavies today and see if they suck. So yeah, I'll let you know everything there is to know about them. And so really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.